Thanks for joining us at Right On Replicas, where we're proud to bring you the best scale model kit reviews on the planet. This review covers the AMT Fruehauf Texaco tanker trailer in 1/25th scale. It's a skill level 2 kit for the intermediate builder, with over 100 parts molded in white and chrome, and includes rubber tires and metal axles. The kit's out of production but can still be found in hobby shops and online, as it was produced in multiple box arts with different decals over the years. The latest release is the Shell Tanker Trailer Kit number 918. This kit builds up to represent a fuel trailer from the 70s, but can still be seen on today's roads. And as for the build-up, it's fairly simple, with a main tank in 4 parts that assembled into a cylinder, the frame and the chassis attached to that. For the advanced builders, I'd recommend using some foil to cover the tank in chrome or getting it plated by the aftermarket platers. The chassis fits pretty well for its age, and overall it builds up well as a kit. The decals in this boxing do represent the typical Texaco tanker of the period. Overall finish size when you're done is about 20 inches long, 4.5 inches wide, and about 6 3/4 inches tall. Here are the kit's contents, and some people would call this an open box review, as they take each piece out of the box and try to find some words to describe it, but that won't help you get the kit built, now will it? So here's my open box review in just a few seconds. Now, as we're going along, you'll notice that we use Model Master liquid cement for most of the construction, some super glue for strength where it's needed, and maybe even some white glue if there's some glass. But also remember to use the manufacturer's safety suggestions when using any of the products you see here in the review for your own protection. Here are the decals for this build. As you can see, they're very colorful and the registry is good, but I recommend that you use some of the aftermarket setting solutions to make sure that the decals, especially the larger ones, conform to the contours of the body and stick well. Construction starts with the frame, and there are notches in each rail for the supports to go into for positive locations. If I may suggest, I would pull the braces off one at a time, beginning at the front, so that you get all the braces in the correct locations, as they are lined up properly right on the sprue. That way you'll get a perfect construction with everything in the right place. Get these parts out of the kit to add the pin to the pin plate and the end cap to the frame. And you might want to consider using a flat surface for all of the frame construction, just to make sure that everything stays true and flat. Add the tank supports, and the whole frame is then painted the color that you want to have your frame. I used what was called a black steel. It's kind of a semi-gloss or a matte gloss type of black. Now we'll assemble the tank, and as you can see, there's just 5 pieces here, so everything goes together in one direction and the pins fit properly. I then painted the tank aluminum, but the instructions call for a gray color, so it's up to you. And like I mentioned before, you could also get it plated or use some foil to cover the tank. Let's add the decals to the kit. Use a shallow tub with warm water, and use some warm water on the body, and then apply them one at a time. I suggest you start with the largest ones, and also use some of that setting solution to make sure that they fit well and stick properly. Squeeze out any air bubbles and excess water, and then go on to the next one until you're finished with the decals. Let the decals dry overnight at least, and then once they've cured and adhered fully, give them a spray coat of clear. The tank's access covers and port covers are painted steel and flat black and installed, and the connection unit is assembled and installed on the front of the tank and painted black steel. Grab the parts for the landing gear, and note that the gear can go in the up or down position, So I use the up position so that I can attach the tanker to a truck cab later. So paint the gear to match the frame and the crank aluminum and attach the crank, and then the gear is attached to the frame as well. Now get the tubes out, and I painted all my tubes steel color and the manifold black steel, and attached it all into place on the underside of the tanker. The connection outlets are chrome plated, and I want to point out here, as well as with painted parts, make sure that you scrape off any areas that you're going to glue, because glue does not adhere well to paint or chrome, and you usually find this out later on when handling and your model falls apart. So scrape off any contact areas, and we'll add the outlets and attach them to the manifold. Gather up these parts from the kit, and then cut the tire insert out of the middles and paint the rims steel and insert the tires. The tire rack and the assembled toolbox are then attached to the frame, and the tire is slid into the rack. Assemble the extension tubes and paint those aluminum, let them dry, and the steps are frame color and the ladder bar is aluminum. Paint the lights clear red and attach to the ladder bar. The ladder bar then attaches at the center top of the back of the tank, and the steps are at the back of the frame rails and the tubes attached to the frame. Now pick these parts out of the kit, and we're going to assemble the suspension carriage, but do not glue the bottom axle mounts, just attach them in place to swing freely. Now we'll gather up the rest of the parts to continue with the suspension, and assemble the axles and attach those. Then add the fenders and the rear bumpers, and add the brake boosters. Assemble all the unpainted parts, and paint the tail lights clear red and the marker lights clear orange. Paint the chassis unit black steel, and add the tail lights and marker lights. Gather these parts and paint the ladder aluminum, and paint the mud flaps flat black, and scrape the paint off of the lettering so that they show through after it's been painted. To personalize my model, I decided to print out my logo as a license plate for one of the rear plates on the tanker. I just used an inkjet color printer, printed it out, sized it up, and made sure that it had a covering of clear gloss tape. Then used some white glue to attach it to the license tag holder at the rear of the truck. Install the rear bumper and tag onto the chassis carriage, and install the carriage onto the frame, and add the ladder in place on the ladder rack. We'll work on the wheels next, and if you haven't done so already, cut the centers out of the rest of the tires. And to give them a street look, I press and roll the tread on a sheet of sandpaper, about a 220 grit. Then paint the rim, ring, and face steel, and the centers and the back flat black. Assemble the tire sets by installing a tire on each set of the centers, and add a rim face to the inside of the center fronts, and a rim ring to the front of the tire. The rear rim then goes on to the rear tire, and do 4 sets and slide 2 sets into the metal axles, and then through the axles on the trailer, and then snap the other tires onto the ends of the axles on the other side, and they'll be all in place at this time. Well, there you have it. Your Fruehauf Texaco tanker is complete, and it'll look great on the back of one of your already built semi-tractor cabs. Now, it's an older kit, and you can tell by the way that it fits. This one was made in 1999, and it had some slight warpage with some of the parts, which generally straighten out when you glue them into place. The tank fit is pretty good, but the frame does not line up really tight to the tank. And even the newer kits have the same issue. The chassis carriage really has no positive locations, and so it fits on the frame just glued into place. You just have to eye it up and make sure that it looks like it's in the proper position. But overall, it's a good build, and even though it's been around forever, it's a great subject matter kit, and you just need one of these for your shelf if you like to build and display big rig models. So they'll keep rolling them out in different variations, and we'll keep buying them. But you know, they're not perfect, but they do look great, and with a little extra effort, they're a good build. And you really need one of these to haul something with your big rig semi cab. So go ahead and get one if you can find one of these vintage kits, or even one of the newer kits, and put it on your shelf. Well, we hope you like this premium model kit review from Right On Replicas, and so that you don't miss any more, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. But you can find us on Facebook and at our website at www.rightonreplicas.com. Thanks!